Hi, I'm Anthonix Maximus. And, yeah, it's a bit late, I know. But I'm gonna just talk about a little movie called Supergirl. It's just I could have reviewed it sooner, but I figured, you know, right now, why don't I just review the movie since it just came out on, not HBO Max, but on Apple TV. So that's what it is. I am going to talk about Supergirl. Get your questionable shaped cups and listen up. I'm gonna try to make this quick because I just have a lot to do. Forgive the it's not gonna be my best production because I'm setting up for other reviews, and I'm gonna rush through this review because I have so many other better movies to talk about. So let's get to it. Supergirl came out in June, and you know what, I'm gonna be straight up. I don't think the movie deserves the hate that it got. I think it came out at a bad time, just kind of like what I said about Masters of the Universe, but no, the movie doesn't deserve hate. It's just, I don't know how I can describe it because, well, there are so many factors to consider when talking about this movie. I have no hate for Millie Alcock as Supergirl. In fact, I loved her. I loved her in her appearance of Superman. Like, in that brief moment of her arrival, I knew she was going to be a good Supergirl. She has that rambunctious young girl attitude, especially a young girl that has no parents and pretty much is free to do whatever she wants, and she has powers to do so. The movie does take a lot of inspiration from this book. Excuse me, ring light. The movie does take a lot of inspiration from this book, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and it's actually a pretty decent story, really. And I got this from the comic book store just before seeing the movie, and look, it even is signed by Tom King. So, you know, that's cool. The movie draws a lot of inspiration from that graphic novel. It does show an origin story of Supergirl as well, but they do change things in it that I don't necessarily care for. It kind of, like, it's a small little detail, and it's not even that important in a grand scheme of things. But to me, it is important because I do feel like that's, like, I feel like Supergirl is Supergirl because the way her age is supposed to be in comparison to Superman. I know the film did everything that it could to avoid being the 1984 movie of Supergirl. It went off-world. And I like that. I like that Supergirl visited other planets. I like that this is more of a story of Supergirl Kara Zor-El discovering her true self. I mean, it's a story about abandonment, being alone in the universe. She's about to lose Crypto, and it's kind of like a mix of John Wick and Mad Max. Just like in John Wick, he pretty much avenges his dog, and it's not as simple as, you know, avenging his dog. It's more of a metaphor about John Wick losing the one thing that he had for his happiness, that was the last thing that his dead wife gave him. In the same way as Crypto is the last thing that she ever had of her family. My only grudge I have with it is that I didn't care for the side character of Ruthie, and I didn't care for the villain either. And it's interesting because the movie actually, alright, again, I don't hate the movie. I just think it's interesting because it checks all the boxes of what makes for a good movie. It has a great soundtrack, it has emotion, it has a cool Mad Max-esque story, it has a great lesson of how the villains are really, really evil because, you know, it's really a movie about anti-trafficking, and which is wild that there are so many people complaining about this movie being woke, and it's like, dude, they're saying trafficking is bad. Like, like, it has all these boxes checked that would make for a good film, but I just felt like I was just waiting for the movie to end, honestly. And I don't know why. I think it's just more of the pacing, really. Lobo, played by Jason Momoa, he did what everyone expected him to do. He was a good Lobo. I mean, he was playing Lobo when he was being Aquaman. So, yes, it's just, we don't get that much of Lobo in it. We don't. It's just, he pops in here and there and then pops out. It's almost like he was meant to be set up for his own movie. It's kind of like a backdoor pilot of a TV show, but with Lobo and a movie. Maybe it's just a bit much on some of the topics. You know, it's like not every male intergalactic character needs to be some kind of predator. Like, come on, like, save some of the good ones. It's predictable. We can tell from the trailers how it's going to be. I'm gonna just come out and say it. It's just superpowered girl who is lost, trying to discover her true self. I mean, after all, she's an orphan of a dead city. Which, by the way, I did like David Krumholtz's portrayal as Kara's father, Zor-El. And I love that they actually spoke in Kryptonian language. It's a real language. They actually had a linguist come up with Kryptonian language many years ago. And we get to see why Kara is the way that she is. You know what it reminded me of? Elektra. Supergirl reminded me of Elektra. Same thing.
Oh, really? What made you think of me while watching Supergirl?
Alexa, stop. I said Elektra, not you. This one always thinks it's about her. In that same movie, Elektra Dachios actually is lost. She's been defeated by life. She goes outward to discover herself. She ends up saving a young girl and fighting off villains, and then she discovers that, hey, maybe she can be a good person. That's what Supergirl is. She basically discovers the true self before going back in the same footsteps as Superman. And David Cornsweet as Superman, I mean, we know he's in the movie because the trailers had to go and show it. You know what? I honestly didn't feel like he was Superman in this. It's like David was just thrown a shirt and was like, hey, can you just film this real quick? Kara meets this girl who is trying to avenge her family, and the girl just needs guidance from Supergirl, but you know, Supergirl never really had a mentor in her life other than Superman, but she didn't listen to him. So how is she gonna help this little girl? I mean, Kara, Supergirl, is busy trying to avenge her dog. Hey, sorry to chime in. Editor Tony here. I just wanted to also throw in the fact that the plot is still better than the original Supergirl movie, because this movie doesn't have a middle-aged Faye Dunaway competing against a high school girl for the affection of a 30-year-old groundskeeper. And yeah, something to do with Supergirl looking for the power source to her city. But anyways, yeah, better plot. You know, I think this is the time I'm just gonna go right to the spoiler. If you have seen the movie or you have not seen the movie and don't care about the spoilers, stick around. If you have not seen the movie and don't want to be spoiled because you're really that committed to Apple TV, then cut to right about here. You know what's messed up about this? You know what's messed up? This actually has a latex texture. Like, it's one thing to look like this, but the fact that it actually feels like, you know, what you think it is. And like I said, I didn't care for the Ruthie character because, you know, she just was bland. A bland girl. It's kind of funny how her dumbass brother got killed. I mean, he was listening to music when the rest of the family was being attacked by the villain Crumb. And he tries to surprise Ruthie, you know, because Big Brother, you know, and then gets killed, and that's what sets him off to kill the entire family. And now this little girl wants her revenge, or wants to hire someone to take revenge, and she uses a sword that her father made, this great, wonderful sword. And you know what? It's not exactly the He-Man power sword, or sword of power. It's just a sword, and the sword ends up doing nothing. It means nothing to anyone. I don't even think she uses it at all. Supergirl is lost. She's just busy partying it up, you know, off-world. And yeah, It's just, we get like some funny moments, Seth Rogen being an alien bus driver, but they meet different people. It's really an anti-trafficking type of movie. And it does follow quite a bit from this story. It really does. It does include characters like Ruthie, and it has Crypto in it, and the villain being Krem as well. Of course, it doesn't include everything from the book, right? Like, if you're a novice of Supergirl, this book actually talks about like a weird character that they introduced. Yeah, did you know Supergirl has a super horse as well? Yeah, in the comic, there was this guy who was magically transformed into a horse by Circe. It was like a whole immortal thing, and he found himself on Earth, and he met Supergirl, ends up falling in love with Supergirl, but he's just a horse. And it kind of goes into that. And this horse's name is Comet. That's a character. See, I do my best to share. Yeah, it's a super horse named Comet. He's in love with Supergirl. He ends up Sorry, it's such a spoiler. I'm gonna spoil the book. I apologize. Yeah, he ends up sacrificing his life to save her, and then at the end he becomes human. And this story also kind of goes into the whole backstory of Supergirl as well. Something that the movie does with the story of Supergirl that I did not like. It's just what I was saying about a tiny little detail. And in a grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter, but it kind of matters to me. Okay. In the comic books and in the cartoons and most iterations of Superman and Supergirl, while Krypton blew up, Argo City remains. And Argo City remained while Krypton blew up. Alright? So the thing is, when Krypton blew up and Kal-El was a baby, by this point, Kara, Superman's cousin, was actually older. She was already born. She was already older than Kal-El. So really, Supergirl is chronologically older than Superman, while time and space and aging and everything, Kal-El landed on Earth. He grew up, and Kara actually was in a frozen state where she remained a young girl. So by the time she made her way to Earth, she was a teenager, and Superman, body-wise, Kara was still a teenager and Kal-El was a grown man. So on Earth, as far as everyone's concerned and maturity-wise, Superman is older than Supergirl.
Pretty colorful, but that's just so everyone knows we're good.
I apologize about the background music if you do pick it up, because I live in Queens and these people like to party on a Saturday. So I'm just gonna power through this. At the end of the movie, like I said, Lobo is in and out, but he doesn't really put too much into the movie. Oh, you're just a girl. And then at the end, oh, good job. It is kind of like Mad Max, where Krem and the villains are trying to traffic all these girls. And the ending for Krem is different than what's in the book. I like what happens in the book more than what happens in the movie. So what happens is that Krem in the movie is just killed. And that's because Ruthie was going to kill Krem with the sword that her father made, because he was this great sword maker. But Supergirl talked her out of killing him, because, the best revenge is her having a happy life. Don't give him the satisfaction. But then Supergirl turns around and stabs him anyways. And this was a mission for her to get the antidote to save her dog from the poisonous dart. Whereas in this book, though, what actually happens, it's a bit more complicated. What happens at the end is that Kara talks Ruthie out of killing Krem, but then Kara puts Krem into the Phantom Zone, and it shows that like centuries later, Kara is still alive and Krem is still in the Phantom Zone. It's revealed that in the first 100 years he's just rowdy and wants revenge, but in the second century what happens is that, well, basically basically, he's tired and just very remorseful of his sins, and Supergirl decides to free him from the Phantom Zone, and then that's when she mercifully kills him. And honestly, that's pretty much it far as the movie goes. I'm gonna go back to the non-spoiler friends because there's not much more I can say to it. It's just a very underwhelming movie. Let's invite our friends back. Hi, welcome back, you non-spoiler friends. As I told our spoiler friends, if you hear any music in the background, I apologize. We live in Queens. The neighbors, it's Saturday, they like to party, and I don't have thick enough walls. So I'm just gonna wrap it up. The movie is very much like the book, but leaves out a couple things. Not that important, but still. I like the movie. I liked it. It checks all the boxes. It's just not overly thrilling. I think the trailers made the movie look more exciting than it was. But I do love the soundtrack, and I play the soundtrack all the time. So I am gonna go ahead and for that reason say the movie is 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. Closer to a 7 than a 5, but a 6 out of 10. That's all I have to say about Supergirl because I want to power through this because there are other movies that I want to review. They just keep coming because it's the summertime. And I think we can guess who else I want to talk about. So stick around. I do have many more movies brewing. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.